Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got George Pino with us, and George has over $1 billion worth of real estate sold, more than a billion over 6,000 transactions around this country. The deals that he's done are legendary. Today, if you are looking for knowledge, you're going to want to sop this up. You guys know the 3-finger swipe I talk about, right? This is a guy who's been around the industry for a while and is going to bring that knowledge to this podcast today. And if you want to jump in the real estate world, this is one of the ones you want to listen to today. So, George, welcome to the podcast.
Anthony, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and share the conversation.
When we look at $1 billion worth of transactions, right? I mean, that's a lot of deals you've gone through over the time. That number itself is just legendary out there.
Actually, I just broke the 2 billion mark. So,
sorry.
I need those numbers.
Sorry, 2 billion. No, that's freaking amazing. So to talk a little bit about that, because some of your background, I think our audience would really enjoy, because they really get to know who you are, and maybe talk a little bit about where you came from and how you got to $2 billion in asset transactions.
Yep. Well, a lot of it, frankly, myself, I'm a product of a mixed family. My father was my grandfather and grandmother were immigrants from Italy. They settled in a coal mining town in Pennsylvania. My dad went off to World War II. From there, the Korean War, he met my mother in Japan when he was at the hospital. I was born in Japan in a military family. And, from there, Vietnam, that we went, he served 30 years in there. We retired down to Orange County. What was interesting is all along that time, because of the fact that, one, I was a child of two parents, one, the Depression era, and my mother was post-World War II Japan, where she used to tell me stories as a child that when she was in third grade, she would remember the fire bombings going over and them hiding wherever they could. After the war, having to go to the black market to be able to survive. They were able to have enough cash saved because they were from a relatively well-off family at the time, but they lost all their actual holdings when the government took it during the war. So because of that, both parents had a wall up against investing.
Sure.
Never taught to invest, never explained. And that's actually something I wish somebody had told me when I was early in my 20s was start investing now, buy and hold. I had the opportunity to do so, and, I just didn't. The privilege of youth, hindsight's 20/20, and I played a lot, made good money and spent a lot of it back when I was younger. But because of the background of my parents, I didn't have that growing up as far as like invest in real estate and do this and everything else. So really I started going in, and it was at the time I went in, my mom was very much engineering, be an engineer, doctor, something along those lines. I went into school for computer science, came out of it and was offered a opportunity to help out a friend at a company. And I decided, what the heck, short term, right out of college, I can get some decent cash for a few months. I got offered a full-time position within 2 weeks. I thought about it and said, you know what, this could be fun. This is exciting. And they were doing real estate auctions. So at the time, it's all about volume. Even though they were small sales and smaller dollar volume stuff, they were doing, one of our largest auctions we did for the RTC was 1,600 properties over a period of 6 days.
So talk to me about these are residential properties you're doing live auctions on, color bid, bid on
residential and commercial. I mean, heck, I think we auctioned off the Hanford Mall 3 times. It kept going back in foreclosure in the mid-'90s, early '90s. But yeah, so it was a combination of residential as well as commercial, mainly residential. We were doing such a high volume, and I was overseeing the closings. What I loved about that was here I am, a snot-nosed 22-year-old kid out of college, and I get assigned Texas, their largest territory, as my territory to oversee the closings. I was able to learn. I mean, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
You
can do it. Yeah.
I went in thinking I knew everything.
Sure.
Not realizing that if I really understood what I didn't know, I probably would have been scared to do anything.
Sure.
And, but because of that, I was able to really grow and learn about that business very quickly. Unfortunately, like life, there's changes that are unforeseen. And that company went public. I was laid off shortly thereafter as a medium level manager, medium, larger level. I was opening offices. I had opened offices for them in Dallas, Houston, New York, Chicago. I met my wife up in Pleasanton, California. So I had been opening up offices for them and doing that. So I had a pretty good understanding of the infrastructure and how it's operating. What I didn't have was the marketing or advertising, the front end of the auction stuff. Well, cut to, they went public. They were doing a lot of layoffs. I ended up getting laid off. And my current business partner, who we've been business partners since 93, that's when we both got laid off. He was laid off 2 weeks before me. And here I am, I'm getting married. My wife has 2 children. We're paying for the wedding ourselves. My first thought was, I need a job tomorrow. And
you're desperate. You're like literally on the line of getting married, got no money, got it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Desperation is motivating.
It should be. It should be, and usually is. But the wonderful part about that, I called our competing company, and the next largest real estate auction company was down in Orange County, and they made an offer that literally that day said, "Come on down," but I'd have to move my family from Los Angeles down to Newport area, and I was talking to my wife, not sure, and I ended up calling my business partner Joe, who I actually had just laid off a couple weeks before, but I knew he was in the market looking. My first thought was, hey, who's hiring and what are they offering? And that's why I asked him. He came to me and said, I have an opportunity. There's a gentleman here that he's the largest residential real estate company in the United States, over almost 2,000 agents. And he goes, he wants to start a real estate auction company. And he is making an offer, and if you want to do it together, let's do it. And so I took that, and then I talked to my wife, and this is part of my luck as well, is to have somebody as supportive as her during this time, because I went from a salary position making a decent amount of money for someone my age to 100% commission.
Whoa.
And so thankfully, my wife was very supportive on that, and and it got down to the brass tacks, so to speak. I mean, all the way down where we're almost out of money. I remember, what's worse than having $20 or $25 in your account is having $19 because an ATM doesn't give you less than 20.
Been there, yeah. Listen, I get it.
Me too. And, but it was all the way to the last. But at that point, we had just signed up a 57 unit auction, sold every single one of those properties. All the closings were happening, I know, within a month and a half. So, I mean, we're, robbing Peter to pay Paul to stay afloat for the time being. And then the closing started happening. And from that, we were able to show that we were able to outperform our competition because we knew what their faults were, and as far faults and or areas that they could improve on. And more importantly, we just backed it up with a lot of hard work. I knew, going in as I'm young, what's my advantage? My advantage is I will give you more time than anybody else will or the other company will. So, I was working, and at the time we were selling 700 to 1,000 properties a year. But I was working 16 hours a day with my business partner. And, but it was wonderful. I mean, we're doing great business, doing very well, and carrying that along. And we did that until a certain point. They ended up selling that company, and they ended up selling the company and closing that division, and I ended up going off into being introduced to another gentleman who wanted to start.
So George, so you go through all of this stuff, right? You go through, all right, the ups, the downs. I'm about to get married. I'm going to go through this. This characteristic of this is what it takes to get stuff done. Life happens, right? You go through all this crazy stuff, and at each one of the turns, you seem to keep working your way through it. Some people call it lucky. Some people call it hard work. Some call it, it's a combination of that, right? And now you bust through that, and all that stuff that you do. What do you think? If you're telling a young guy who's out there right now wanting to make it in life, what's the lesson to tell him?
Number one, honestly, show up.
All right. What do you mean show up? What do you mean when you say show up?
What I mean
Give
by
me
showing up, that's 90% of our business is actually being there, showing up, and doing the actual work. A lot of the work is tedious. A lot of it is analytical. A lot of it is it's not just sales and commercial real estate. You have to really understand the finances, what's going on, what's happening down the road. We're projecting out cash flow, even on a simple, in what they say, a simple lease. I like to argue that leases are actually more complicated than sales because you're taking into consideration a relationship that's going to happen for 5, 10, 20 years versus a sale, you're done in 2 months. So those leases, even that, you have to plan and project for what your client's needs are and what you're looking to do. So, I think that actually allowed us to be able to do the same for ourselves. Meaning,
all right, so now you're planning out. You're going out there. You're figuring out these leases. Give me a little bit more. Look, if a young guy's out here and he wants to become a real estate, he wants to jump in the real estate world. Where right now with all those changes that are happening, all the things you've learned, where are we guiding these young people to go?
Number one, if it's commercial real estate, start off with the leasing. And I would start, depending on your submarket, there's ways to do this. We actually have, my business partner has your first 90 days in commercial real estate up on his website. And it's a free booklet. But the key point is choosing where you want to go and how you're going to actually make an impact in there. Creating your business plan first. I think a lot of people look at it as a job and not a business. So if you're young, you have to realize this is not a job. Even if you're with a large company, you are your own business, especially if you're in a commission-based sales industry, you are your own business. So with that, you have to be very wise in choosing which submarket you're going to go into, meaning even in Los Angeles, when we talk to agents, new agents starting wanting to go somewhere, we ask them. They say, "Oh, I want to go into West Hollywood as my market, or Beverly Hills. Better yet, Beverly Hills as my market. I want to be investment sales in Beverly Hills." My first thing is, well, that sounds great, and it sounds like you've been reading a lot of the fluff that's out there. But have you actually counted how many properties sell in Beverly Hills?
Yeah, just the volume. It's just the sheer volume is going to kill you. There's not enough volume.
There's just not enough out there to actually, to keep it going. Yes, I mean, as we used to call it like elephant hunting back in the day.
Yeah.
Hunter and gatherers. If you're hunting, there was a reason you didn't hunt elephants. One, they're a lot harder to take, and the food spoils pretty quick. You can't make use of it all. But if you take smaller game all the time, you're always going to consistently eat and eat well.
Right. Well, and you're on the deals. I mean, and look, guys with multi-million-dollar deals aren't looking for startup brokers. They're looking, they're
exactly.
Look, they want a seasoned broker who's got a proven track record. So now not only are you hunting for the elephants, but you're also,
going up against the actual competitors who have better. Yeah, either better tools at their disposal to get the job done.
Yeah, and they're hunting with helicopters, and you're walking around the jungle.
Yeah, with a spear.
That's right.
But for the agents though, my biggest thing, and we do this with our agents every single year, whether they're new or older, is I sit down with them on a business plan, and I think that's where a lot of agents fail, is in that they don't have an accountability system, and that's essentially the business plan. How am I going to do this business? How am I going to grow it? They just think they're going to go in, and yes, salespeople have to have an ego. You have to have a good ego to be able to do sales. At the same time, you can check that ego, and you have to check it and verify it with actual data. You can't go in there saying, I'm the greatest person in the world and I'm going to be successful if you know nothing about that industry.
Like, what are they doing on Monday morning? What are they doing at 9 a.m.? What are they doing at 10 a.m.? What are they doing at 11 a.m.? I mean, having an ego is great, but it's it's your feet moving, your mouth moving, right? You're out there negotiating deals. Having all the ego you want gets you nothing. You got to do some stuff. How are you getting these young guys to figure out a cookbook or a recipe book for success?
Well, combination. One is, we talked about the training classes. I give training classes every single day to young agents or newer agents, anywhere from typically an hour long, from 8:30 to 9:30. We even have agents from other companies that join us to listen in on certain subjects and things like that. But more importantly, on Tuesdays, twice a week, I sit with the younger agents and I actually sit down and we'd sit down and talk about what did you experience? What did you run into? How would you do it differently? What are you going to do? So it's really teaching them how to actually really take a step back and analyze what they're doing and determining, okay, you know what? If this is not working, then maybe I need to do this instead. So it's really just if you need to take ownership of your business, and if you're not getting the results that you want, then you have to actually sit down and determine, well, what can I do to make it better?
So let's talk about it, because I think there's a lot of guys. This is a great one right here. This conversation, I think, is the key to success. It's the idea. Hey, I want to be a broker. Great. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Great. Everybody wants to go. Let's go to heaven. I'm great, but now I got to die to get there. I want to be a great broker, but I've got to do some work. Right now, what does that mean? I got to do it. What are we teaching them at 9 a.m. to do to get started? How do they get deal flow going? Yeah. I mean, how are they out there in the marketplace getting deal flow? Because look, I want to do the Beverly Hills deals. Yeah, of course they do. They've watched $1 Million Broker, right? They've seen these fancy brokers. I want to be that guy.
Yeah. So we actually have a pretty interesting course, because younger agents, the biggest issue that you run into, as you mentioned before, is they're going up against with a lot of older experienced agents. So what I do is we now use all the tools that are at our disposal. We're one of the few companies that actually do that, where we actually embrace social media and branding of our agents. Most companies don't like that because they want to try and control the agents and what the agents are putting out. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're a young agent, and what we teach them and train them to do is, number one, start doing what we call either proof stacking. Write down a deal that you just did, what you overcame, how you helped the client, and then what were the end results. Number one. Number two, write an article about something that's interesting, whether it may be some new laws and how that might affect different investors. More importantly, what ends up happening is, as you're making these calls now and you're talking to clients, you can lead them down that path. And, AB 1211 about next thing you know, they're like, you can say, I just wrote an article that was picked up by Globe Street. Did you get a chance to read it? Because if not, I'll send it to you. No longer do they think you're a young kid. They think you just got published and you know what you're talking about.
Got it. So you're talking. You're off your phone. You're not just doom scrolling. Yep. You're out there physically in action, talking to the opportunities. A lot of databasing. There's a lot of grunt work that has to be done. A lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations. But if it's focused and done right, you can really expand upon that. And what I mean by that is, they say in commercial real estate, if you talk to any large company, they're going to say, don't expect to make any money for the first year, and probably not anything livable for the first 2 years. That's typical, and that's a broken model for me. And I have agents that have been in the business for 8 months that have closed 6 deals. Got it. Now, what's their key to success? What's getting them from it being a 2 years ramp up to being a 6 month ramp up?
A lot of it is, one, actually doing the work, but having the business plan, meaning a structured plan. Like, I'm going to focus on a combination of social media, phone calls, cold calling, research, and articles, doing it all. It has to be combined, because otherwise it all plays off of one another. And that's how we actually created this, in the sense that, when you're talking to somebody, even though it might be they may not be ready for you as a client, but they might be in a year and a half, but you want to make sure you stay in contact with them and don't forget about it. So as you're talking to them, if you're doing a monthly newsletter for that market already, put them on that. You're consistently in front of them, and they will come to you now because you've given them value. You're showing them what the concessions are in the area, what other lease rates are going, what other pricing, what's happening. So you're giving them value and insight into the marketplace. And
they see you as the local expert. They start to see you as a value in the marketplace. All right. So now, a lot of people call that a recipe book or a cookbook, a system. Now, are you giving them at 9 o'clock in the morning, do this, at 10 o'clock in the morning, do this. How detailed do you get into their day to guide them? Because I mean, I got a lot of guys who all of a sudden they're washing their salad bowls for the 5th time today. I'm like, or, you know, they're sitting there watching Oprah all day. I mean, actually, I don't even know if people watch Oprah anymore.
You know, and I think that's always going to happen. I mean, there's that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So no matter what, there's going to be people that say they're going to do the system or work the system, but then, you know, you can just tell that they're not, because they're not getting the traction. And when you sit down and talk to them, you know, they'll sit down and admit like, oh no, I haven't done that. I haven't gone out and reached out to the community, because we also do a lot of community involvement. For instance, 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica is, I mean, compared to when I first moved there 30 years ago to what it is today, it's like death. I mean, there are huge vacancy rates approaching 50%. And, you know, all the retailers are closing down. Rents are still high. It's crazy. So we wanted to bring shoppers back to that area. So we actually held in conjunction with the city, right after the farmers market, we promoted and sponsored a luxury car show with one of our clients, Malibu Audubon, to come out and put it up right in the middle of the, right after the farmer's market. But what that allowed our agent to do, it just boosted his career by about a year, because he was able to talk to every single retailer in the area and say, we're putting this on for you guys. I'm going to have a silicone wristband, and anyone who comes in, will you give them a discount and I'll promote your company? So he's now talked to every single owner. He literally has the mayor of Santa Monica's phone call, you know, speed dial now, all this. And so that boosted his career by doing that. Now he's going to, it's going to, you know, he literally had a owner that he ran into on the promenade say, look at him, goes, how long have you been in the business? Because he's a younger gentleman. And he goes, you know, this is really my first year. And he goes, you're going to be extremely successful. I've owned properties for 30 years out here, and not once has a broker or agent come up and asked me to do any of this.
Well, I think that's in there is that extreme hustle, right? Yeah. I mean, I work with guys all the time. We're like, yeah, they all want to be something, but they won't go do that hustle, right? They won't go out there and create. I mean, essentially what this guy's doing, he's creating a future for himself and being, I mean, he's going above and beyond. So if he can break it there, that behavior there breaks it his whole life, right? It's like what I do here is how I do everything, right? What I'm doing now is how I do everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's been, it's interesting because, as you mentioned before, it's you know, there are people you may have, you know, we have agents that say they're doing it or not doing it. And I know that it translates, but you know, what's interesting about our industry is that within the first 2 years, there's a higher than 90% attrition rate for new agents.
Well, most guys, my judgment is most of them all say they want to go do something.
Yeah.
You tell them what to go do. Look, if you follow the steps, if you get up in the morning, you make 60 calls before you do anything else. If you go do X, if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll be successful. And okay, and they don't do it. And I think ultimately what happens is they shame themselves out of the game.
Yeah. Right? Or they think they're smarter. That was actually something I ran into, I think, pre-COVID. And this was all the millennials. And we actually had a couple agents sit there and say, you just don't understand how to manage millennials.
Yeah.
This is how we do our business.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I mean, my first thought was actually, it's not how you do your business because you've done none. So
right. You don't get it today. You don't get today's technology. You're like, listen, young man.
So, and that's a mindset. I mean, I think you have 90% of the people out there are actually have that mindset of creating something for themselves. They'll go out and do things and do it, understand they'll even, and it doesn't matter if they're in their own business or if they're working for somebody else. They're going to actually reflect on how they could have done a better job for themselves or their client or their company. And that's the less than 90% of the people out there. I mean, most people don't have that mentality. And those are the ones, though, that have that ability to be able to reflect and adjust and adapt that are going to be successful, whether it's in sales, whether it's in just corporate life or whatever the case may be. It's that constant reflection and adaptation that allows them to grow faster than any other company or any other
or just relentless behavior. I mean, look, it sounds good to want to be something.
Yeah.
It only becomes good when you put the relentless behavior in it. Look, it's the proof of the ages. This is not something that started today. It's not started when I was a kid or when we were kids. It's been the same truth forever, that those who get off their ass and go do something and relentlessly go do it, right? Until it's to the point where they're leveraging. Look at where you were at. I mean, I can remember days where I had less than $20 in the. I always tell people, you're out there. You ever go fishing, right? And you let all the line out until you're down to the only thing holding the string on is the knot that's tied onto the reel at the end. I go, you ain't been in business. You ain't pushed hard enough until you've been down to the knot. Right? You're down to that last paycheck, that last $19 you can't get out, right? Yeah. Now you've pushed yourself out there. Now, are you willing to do that? Are you really wanting to feel that feeling? Because the truth is, I think they get stuck, and I'm sad that most men or most entrepreneurs, men and women, never get to know that feeling of what it's like to push themselves all the way to the limit. Right. And there's something about coming back from that and creating what you're creating today, right? Being able to give it back that you want them to feel. You want that man or woman to feel that feeling of knowing I can give it all and put it all on the line and create this, what you've created today, $2 billion worth of sales out there.
Well, the way I look at it, it's very empowering, because once you actually have to run through it and do it, and you come out of it, and you come out of it perhaps stronger, or at least where you're at, you realize that there's nothing out there that's going to kill or stop you from getting stuff done then. You may run into roadblocks, you may run into things, but if you're constantly going to adapt, then there's nothing that's going to be able to stop you. And I think that's the mentality that a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that like to feel, that want people to feel sorry for them, or,
this victim mentality crap.
Victim mentality. And
it's not going to get you anywhere.
It's not that. I mean, just like yourself, Anthony, I'm assuming you've probably failed a few times yourself.
Failed. I mean, I've gone bankrupt
as well.
Yeah, you're not an entrepreneur if you haven't gone bankrupt somewhere in your life. I mean, if you haven't pushed it all to the line, you're up there, like I said, back down to that string. There's something about that has you get up and do that. And my want for the young entrepreneur that's listening today is I want them to feel that feeling, right? Mm-hmm. I want them to know, just like I feel like I want every man to know what it's like to be in a fist fight once in their life, right? Get punched in the fucking mouth. Go get punched in the mouth once, and get that feeling of know what it's like to get punched in the mouth and going, yeah, you're okay. It's all right. Look, I don't mean to go live from that guy, but I think there's something about going out there fist fighting with life and putting it on the line that's nowhere near the monster that you think it is, and you're built to go do it, right? I mean, this I think the thought of doing it. I had a young man this morning that I work out with, and he's like, I'm not feeling it today. I go, look, all you got to do right now is go put your sneakers on. Like, don't worry about the work. He was feeling a little sick and got a little, not feeling well. He's like, just go put your sneakers on. When I put his sneakers on, by the time we got to the gym, we had the biggest personal record today ever had. I'm like, nice. Look, you get, all we had to do is get to the sneakers. Look, all I want those young men to do, those young ladies to do, those young entrepreneurs to do, get to the phone and start making phone calls. Yeah. Right? Don't worry about the rest of your future. Just put the sneakers on.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, one of the biggest ad campaigns, the most successful ad campaigns out there that everyone knows about, 3 simple words: just do it.
Yeah.
And, and that's the bottom line is, if you're not, don't worry about the fear. Don't worry about failure. Because if you look at failure as, you know what, I'm not failing, it's an opportunity for me to learn and improve better. Then, just like when I talk to agents and say, like, if you're making cold calls and someone says no, don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as, you know what, I learned something. This is somebody that I shouldn't be calling and wasting my time doing for at least 6 months or whatever. Take something positive out of it. So if you're going to do that, it's there, and just like you were saying as well, I totally get the fighting analogy, and I think it's actually a little prettier analogy than out there because I think fighting, I grew up with martial arts. I think fighting, most people don't understand fighting is a chess game. Yeah. A true fighter, if you're really fighting and you're really in martial arts or MMA or whatever, boxing, it's a chess game. You're not sitting there like just throwing punches and whatever else. You're using feints to lead someone down into it. And it's just like sales. It's just like anything else. It is that chess game. It's strategy of thinking ahead of how you're going to get the other person to react by doing things, whether it may be a quick step to the right or left or duck under. So I'd love that analogy of what you were saying about just you want to see them get hit, because at the very least, if they've gotten hit, that they've been in the ring or whatever, and they've had that experience.
Well, Eric, tell me, when I love talking to tycoons like yourself, tell me about the most creative, the messiest deal you pulled off, and how'd you do it? Right? Give me one you pulled out of your gatukas and made it happen. How'd you do it?
Okay, craziest deal. And frankly, this wasn't actually a huge win either. We were able to get out of it well. But back in 2008, 2009, you probably heard that we had a little bit of an issue. Well, we had just acquired a 300-unit apartment building, or just went into escrow for it. And we were syndicating it. My business partner and I were syndicating it. The very first week that we took it out for syndication, we sold out 90% of the spots. That Tuesday right after, the stock market crashed. Took us another 2.5 months to fill the last 10% of the investors. And frankly, based upon what was going on and looking at, I think it might have been wiser if we'd actually even pulled back a little bit at that point. But we decided to go forward because we were able to get it syndicated and get going and moving forward. And this was a heavy, heavy development deal. And we did really well, starting to re-tenant the property. It was 80+% vacant at the time of acquisition. We were re-tenanting it, and it was doing great until the jails in the area did an early release, and most of the people moved next door. And we had a mass exodus one day when two guys got into an argument, and they started taking pot shots at our building.
Oh!
With a gun. We had a mass exodus. But it just went from there down. And that was because we didn't have control of those things. I mean, we had control of our building. We were able to do that, but we didn't have control of what the city did and what anything else did. So we're able to work it out with the bank and get it back on track, and then extricating ourselves out of it. But that was probably the hairiest and probably some of the scariest times as well. About like everything going on, like, whoa, what's this? Well, it was one thing after another and after another. And if anything, we learned quite a bit from that. But at the same time, it was a costly education as well. I mean, we didn't lose money, but we didn't make money. So
back around that same time, I had two companies I was running. One was CDO Group, which I have now, and I had this a company called Pro Patios. And we used to do these outdoor patios for restaurants and nightclubs. It was all about these amazing outdoor spaces, right? And I had this building. I rent a building on the west side of Chicago. I mean, what I was looking for was just massive square footage. I just needed a big, giant building, and I rented from this guy who I'm certain was a Colombian drug dealer, right? I get this massive, massive space, right? 25,000 square foot space for me at the time was just unbelievable, right? And it's got a couple loading docks, and it's perfect for this patio business that I'm running. Our UPS truck driver gets shot, right? It was like exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Nobody wanted to come to work anymore, right? Like the next day, you just have to pivot. Like you're literally on the line of scrimmage. You're getting up every day, and you've worked out, people have their cars pulled. It was a rough neighborhood in the west side of Chicago, heroin neighborhood, and we figured out how to park everybody's car inside and gates and let people in and out, so we were safe in the building. But the day that UPS truck driver got shot, nobody wanted to come to work anymore, and rightfully so. It was that part where you really face to face with, this is too violent for people to want to work with, and now you have to pivot. And it was those ones where you can't control everything all the time, and you can't, and you can get stuck in that. You can literally get stuck and go, okay, that's it, I'm shutting myself down, or you just pivot and find some other way of working your way out of it. And I think that's something to remember for those entrepreneurs out there. You're going to have, the neighbor building taking pot shots at you, or a UPS truck driver gets shot, or something more crazy than it's out there. Just ideas keep moving. Don't stop. Yeah. Don't let that just get you locked into, a way of being, to keep moving forward.
No, I 100% agree with you there. I mean, there's always going to be things that happen that are out of your control. And it's not what makes somebody successful is not so much that they didn't run into those issues, but rather how they dealt with them. That's right. And most people tend to have a little bit of fear, so they don't want to deal with negative issues until the last minute, and that ends up usually causing problems or bigger problems down the road. I think the most successful people look at it as, oh, here's an issue, get it done now, get this resolved, find out what's going on, what's happening. It's not the, it's that mentality of strike while the iron's hot. Get it done, do what you need to do, make adjustments or whatever the case. But if you wait too long, it's just going to be worse. And it's not like anything ever happens. I mean, I see that too often where, I've seen either banks or investors or whomever, they turn into the proverbial ostrich with the head in the ground. And I know that's not what ostriches do, but.
Well, so let's talk about this. So in an AI world, right, in an AI-driven marketplace, in an AI-driven world, where do you see us in the next 5 years, George?
I think AI is one, if you're not using AI yet, you're going to be left behind. Number two, though, is that it's how do you use AI? And I think people aren't using it necessarily the right way yet. Just like there's an old saying this is how I actually know this. There's an old saying in IT that the best computer repair or best IT person is not the one who knows the most about computers, but the one that can Google the best. So, with AI, it's no different. Junk in, junk out. And so if you're not prompting it correctly and you're not asking the right things or going and delving even further into it and understanding not just what the AI is doing, but you also have to understand that what it's putting out, is it going to appeal to your client base or who you're trying to attract? Because if it's not, then it doesn't matter that you're using AI. All you've done is save some time with no results. Awesome. And so, I think AI, though, is going to be more about the prompts and how people use it, especially in our industry. There's going to be a lot more data that's available, but there already is now compared to what, when I first started there. I remember when someone actually said, have you heard of this internet thing? It's going to be big. So.
All right. Well, George, it's amazing. The fact I get to have you on the podcast. I promise I kind of keep this tight. Yep. Let's if people want to get a hold of you, they want to join one of your seminars, they want to come to one of your courses. What's the best way for them to hunt you down and come do that?
Easiest, fastest way is actually either through my LinkedIn, which is just George Pino, or directly to me, gpino@cbicommercial.com. I try and respond to everybody, no matter who.
We'll put all that down below for all of you guys that are out there. Want to come join one of George's courses, get to know George. Look, getting to know someone who's done $2 billion worth of sales in the world is something to get to know. He's a legend. Some of us call him the luckiest man in the industry. So, George, I'm so grateful for having you on this podcast today.
Well, Anthony, I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. It was wonderful having a great conversation with you today.
Thanks. We'll look forward to having you on some more. Hey, audience members, last week I blew through 83,000 subscribers on YouTube. Blows me away. We noticed that a bunch of you guys, we had over 6,000 downloads last week's show. And we noticed that a bunch of you had made it to the end of the podcast, but we're not subscribers. If you could take a second right now and do that, it makes a world of difference. To Jonathan and myself, we're working hard. Jonathan this morning walked in and goes, "Boss, you owe me a raise." And he's getting a raise. Jonathan, you getting a raise?
Oh, yeah.
He got a raise. He's got a raise. He needed 5,000 subscribers. You guys want to get this kid another raise. Keep doing what you're doing. Please take a second and like and subscribe and do that for us right now. And as always, thanks for listening.